Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Today, as we always do, we discuss issues which are relevant in the context that we live in our societies and communities. In the Indian context today, we are going to talk about the power of education, learning, and getting rid of poverty at the early stages of life of people. How does one do that? India has been at the bottom of the heap when it comes to conversation. It's a poor country. We have caste discriminations. We have caste distinctions, religious strife. All kinds of things are happening. But who suffers out of that? Children and people. Today, I have great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Abraham George, who is a highly educated person with MBA, PhD to his credit, and he has decided to make a difference in the lives of people almost about 23 years ago. He was a successful businessman, executive in the US, and then he was hit upon the idea to how to remove the poverty and how to remove poverty in one generation. To that end, Mr. George set up a school called Shanti Bhavan. He will talk about it more, but the point of the matter is that how a non-resident Indian chose to go to India, stayed away from politics, and made successful venture out of this entire dream and ambition of his. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha, and I'm really delighted to welcome you today because you are one of the classic examples of people who have not talked about change, but you have talked about change by making a difference through your commitment and investments that you have made in the entire venture. So tell us something more about Shanti Bhavan School, what it is, what inspired you to start this venture, because in our community, everybody talks about doing something for country back home. What was your inspiration?
First, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak to you, speak to the audience, and tell our story. Maybe I should tell the audience that I am not someone just living here. I spent my first 21 years in India. I was an army officer in the Indian Army, in the Indian Artillery. I'm a product of NDA, National Defense Academy, and Indian Military Academy in Dehradun and so on, and I served at the Chinese border and the Pakistan border. So I went through all of those things, and for a variety of reasons, including my hearing problem that I developed in the hills, I came to America at the age of 21. So now I've been here for quite a while, and after that I pursued my education in America and had my own company at some point. And then I decided 23 years ago that I should now, its time has come for me to return to India before I get too old to do things. And all along this period when I was in America, I was thinking about the problems that India faced. So going back to my early years, I noticed that a very large segment of India's population is poor, especially in the rural areas, and especially people from the so-called lower caste. And that has been the state of affairs for over 1,000 years. And how do you break this? We have programs the government runs where you are given certain quota for admission and so on. But somehow they cannot get the stigma of being a lower caste person, so-called, out from the public eye. And what is the solution for it? And if you really look at poverty programs over these years, not only in India but elsewhere, the goal in most poverty programs is to somehow provide the bare minimum skills or education so that they have a job, they don't starve. They, vocational training or some basic primary education. So I was looking for a solution that would break the cycle of poverty for once and for all. So that is where I got started.
That's brilliant because two things happen in life. Either you break down or you break through. When it is a breakdown scenario, you give up. You accept life as is. But when you make a breakthrough, that shifts the entire paradigm of life itself. And I think you are making efforts in the life of those people who are involved with you to give them an opportunity for making a breakthrough in their life which they never imagined. So that's the point which is very important. And since you bring in children at 4 years of age, much early in their life, and you provide them, one thing which I learned about your program was that you are not relying upon the classic Indian mentality of common minimum program. What you are doing is perhaps that giving them top class educational opportunity.
That's right.
Which makes a difference. Because tell us something more about it, that how did you hit upon that number of 1 lakh plus to let the children go through that experience from absolute poverty to a chance and a choice?
Right. I came to America with $8 in my pocket.
That is the story of every first generation guy who
Exactly.
came here. Right.
And I wouldn't say I struggled very much because I got some part-time job here and there, and I could somehow live in Manhattan and go through college and paid off the student loan and everything else. But I had one thing which all these people that I'm talking about in India don't have, which is opportunity. I knew all along that if I worked real hard, I have the opportunity or the chance to succeed and succeed very well. And that somehow doesn't seem to be the mode of operation in India. If you're born into a very poor home, it's very difficult to break out of it. So when I was thinking of solutions, I came to the conclusion that no amount of preaching to people to not to discriminate or to give them opportunity is going to work. What I have to do is to start with one school, and hopefully I can encourage others to replicate this model, or I myself replicate them, that we can have hundreds of Shanti Bhavans that is dedicated to the idea that children from very poor homes, they are also given the same opportunity as my own 2 boys who had excellent education and who could go on and get their MBAs and so on in America. They also have the same opportunity, and one day when they succeed, nobody would know any longer where they came from. They will be living in the affluent society like anyone else, and their children will be going to good schools and staying in good communities, so the caste system also breaks down. That was my idea.
That is a brilliant idea. That's what I really loved about your program, is that you are providing support to a group of people who are designated as a reserved category, and they remain so for the rest of their lives.
Right.
One of the challenges India faces is, and that's what you are hitting at, is installing a performance-based culture. Now, these children, when they go through this, and I have seen their profiles, and they have, they work in top-notch institutions.
Right.
They are no longer part of a reservation culture.
No, they are not.
They are not. And that, I think, is a real deep impact on the societal framework, that destitute people who permanently have been designated as reserved and looked down upon by people, now they are performing. And that is perhaps the most wonderful impact that you are making.
Right. Yes. I always tell the children that you should gain that first job into companies like Goldman Sachs or Amazon and so on merit, not because of a quota. And so how do you do that? You have to get through ISC, ICSE. We are accredited to ISC program at the 12th grade. And then you should go to good colleges in Bangalore. There are some of the best ones like Mount Carmel or St. Joseph's and so on. So the recruiters come there. And then if I brought them up well, and they have not only a good education, but the social skills, that they are more appealing to the employer than those children who had the luxury of, doing things, but didn't develop that hunger for success. If they could demonstrate that to the employer would take them. So all our children who graduate from college, they get into top multinationals. And that has been the story.
And that is without reservation.
Exactly.
Now that is such a wonderful story. Now, going on that subject, what has been the response of the local communities in Bangalore area where your establishment is? How are they responding to this? Because you are creating a kind of a social revolution in the country, which still fights for reservation as a matter of right. I mean, recently, Maharashtra government gave 16% reservation for Marathas.
Yes.
Now, I look at it from this point of view, that if I have to resort to reservation to protect my vote bank or whatever, it has a remarkably deleterious impact on everybody. Then why doesn't the country give proportionate reservation for everybody in the country for the same 100 jobs that are available?
Then everybody will be a minority, I suppose.
Everybody is claiming to be that minority.
Yeah.
So share with me and share with the audience also that how is the local community in Bangalore responding to this, and what has been the response of people who are involved with you?
Maybe there are different groups of people. And partly my own fault. I was trying to do my job pretty much on my own initially. First 12 years, I didn't reach out to anyone. I was busy doing things because initially people didn't believe that this is possible. There was a debate about nature versus nurture, that children from this background can never succeed. They don't have role models and so on and so on. And I was arguing, no, maybe there are some genetic factors, I don't know, maybe malnutrition and this and that, but if I bring them up right from an early age, that's why the 4 years came up. So I could have tried from 3, but it's a little difficult to look after a 3-year-old. 4 gets a little easier. And if I bring them up from 4, and I bring them up just like I do for my own children, 2 boys, and they are also my children now, then they would do well. This nature can be overcome to a very, very large extent, and our children have proved that. Now, to answer your question, how does the community? So the first group of people just didn't believe this is possible. So I had to wait 20 years to prove that they are wrong, because they was just studying and they are not yet ready for the jobs. So when they started getting the jobs, and by then I had reached out to the general public for donations on. Not much success in India, but in America people were more receptive. You know, the underdog idea that they get very emotional about the idea that you know someone is doing something for the poorest of the poor.
Right.
So I was getting support here, but what I wanted was to reach out to large companies. Every foreign company is in Bangalore, every one of them, American, German, French. And I called on them and invited them to come and see. And I called Wipro and Infosys also. But foreign companies, for whatever reason, I don't know, they were a lot more receptive to the idea of examining us and seeing whether our children are good or not. And once they started hiring them and they start outperforming the others, then they are very eager to hire. So today I don't have a problem in getting them employed. And same thing is happening in American and foreign universities. I have 2 kids in France, I have 3 in Japan, 2 in United States, and 1 or 2 in Scotland, doing their master's programs.
So you have created a global reach.
Yes.
A dream for somebody
Right.
who would never have known what it is like living abroad and studying abroad in an environment which is competitive, demands performance. And so the first batch, when was the first batch of people who got hired?
We are now 23 years ago I went, to India, but the school is approximately 21 years. First 2 years construction of the infrastructure, so 21. So 12 years plus preschool and kindergarten, 14 years in Shanti Bhavan, then 3 more years in college. So 14 plus 3, 17. And so if I'm just giving you the math, 4 years, 5 batches have gone out.
5 batches have gone out.
Yes.
That's such a wonderful story. You know, you feel inspired hearing something that was kind of would have been impossible for one man to make a difference. Stay tuned. We will get back to you soon after this short break. Welcome back. Now we wanted to find out is that what was the mission and what was the trigger point for Abraham George to take this massive initiative in which the students are seeing a change of life and times for them, and not only for them but for the community. So what I would like to know from you is, what is the mission? So you have started on your first batch, second batch, 3 batches have gone forward. You have 1 school, so
right.
Capacity is 24?
24 in each grade. So
Each grade.
altogether 300 plus.
300 plus. So, you know, it's a very, very powerful concept. I'm familiar with this and I'll come back to that later. But share with me your vision and mission, and how do you want to take the next step so that in a country of 1.3 billion people, more than 300 can gain from this experience?
Yes. First is the direct impact that we are looking for. That is the children themselves. They should be able to break out of poverty for themselves, do extremely well, excel in whatever they do, and they're able to succeed. And for that, the numbers are like the children, normal salary ranges from 25,000 a month to 3 lakhs a month. Some of our children are earning, and some of them work in Dubai, I forgot, they're earning 3 lakhs. So a month. So that potential suddenly they gain, and now they have the power to do something with it. That takes you to the second part, and that is they have to transform their families, immediate, and maybe a slightly extended, their brothers, sisters, and so on, but also the community. That is the second part of our mission, that they would take that next step. And that is not possible if they are burdened with debt the parents have, the house is leaking, they just got 1 room, the daughter is not married because there's no money for dowry, and you know, all the problems. And the father is a drunkard, or 60-70% of our children don't have real fathers. So there are a lot of social complications that I can talk about. But so they have to overcome all this, and money helps a great deal. And when they have that income generation capability, they are able to impact the community, their own families in the community. And the third that I was looking for in the long run is what I talked about earlier, which is a social impact. And that will take some time. And I sometimes worry, you know, my children, the girls especially, very polished, very lovely children, and some of the pictures you have there. Yet, they cannot find someone outside of their so-called lower caste who is willing to marry them in India. So right. It's a very difficult situation. So I tell them maybe they should move out of the general area and don't have to talk about caste or anything. But then they say, well, the boy or boy's parents want to come and see their family, you know. So it gets very complicated. But that will break with their children, because my current graduates will be employed very well. They will be living in, you know, comfort. So their children, when they are getting ready to get married 25 years from now, they bring them to a posh place. So the whole caste system will break. So the third goal might be a little prolonged, may not be accomplished immediately, but I feel that another generation, not too far, 20, 25 years from today, that will happen. So these are the three part components of that.
You are actually in the business of wealth builders. You are creating a wealth of sorts that was not existing prior to this. Those children's fate, what would be if you were not doing this, is up in the air. We do not know that. But having said that, do you have any plans, or do you have in your scheme of things that these children, when they get so well employed and located elsewhere, that they give back to the community through monetary contribution? Because that's very important, because these people were all poor. Their
Right.
families are still poor. So do they commit certain investments back in the pool?
Yes.
Or through your institution?
Yes.
Or is there a commitment of that kind that you have stipulated?
There is no written commitment. It is unfair for me to get a written contract.
No, I'm not talking about written contract.
Yeah.
No. I'm
There's
saying
a
that
moral commitment.
Moral commitment.
Absolutely,
And the volition
absolutely.
to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
There is a moral commitment. Actually, from a very young age, we plant that idea in their minds that they are beneficiaries of strangers, someone in New York or in Bangalore or Bombay contributing money. They are beneficiaries of someone's generosity, and they must reach out to the future children of Shanti Bhavan or wherever there is a need. It doesn't have to be in their own communities. It can be elsewhere in India or anywhere where there is a need. So we are open to them doing something. But they tell me that it will take them 4-5 years because they have to put their house in order. They cannot do this because there's so much family pressures. The father is threatening them, and he goes into drinking, and they have to manage that if they can't give cash to them. We have all kinds of arrangements like rice and vegetables delivered every day to their huts, rather than giving money. But it gets very complicated. So I am hopeful. Some are already giving. Some are already giving some portion of their money. And I am hoping that these children will become quite wealthy, in the long run, and they would make major endowment contribution to Shanti Bhavan or other, but it might take 10, 15, 20 years before that happens.
Of course. Creating the endowment and contributing back to the society and the institution that you are involved with, the children, because they come at a very early age, how do you impart the values? That's very important, because the children have never experienced poverty. They only lived a life that they were thrown into. So the question arises that in addition to the regular classroom methodology that you are training them, teaching them to face the world and become employable,
Right.
what are the value systems you are inculcating in them that they will remember it, not forget it?
Right, absolutely.
Right. So, just like the father asking for more drink because now the children have become a cash cow.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so how does the school impart the value of, say, sacrifice, spirituality, or say how to make intellectual contribution or relationships? How does the school do that?
Excellent question. And the answer is not an easy answer. The techniques.
You are doing a tough job, so we are talking about a tough topic.
Yes.
So I'm not expecting an easy question, easy answer. So let's
Right.
kind of throw this to people involved. There are a lot of Indians who want to do something. So there are many Ekal Vidyalaya. You have so many institutions who are doing work in that direction.
Right.
And they're doing an exemplary job. But yours is remarkably unique.
Right. It has many components to this formula, if there is a formula. And the underlying element of that formula is the love between the children and you. And, they have to feel that you are their father, really. A lot of them don't have real fathers. And it is so easy because you bring them up from a very small age, 4. You see them grow up every day. So that bond is created. And by the time you spend 10 years, you know, they are so relaxed with you, and you are very relaxed, and the love between you and them is so good, and you start thinking about them as your own. Now, once you have that, then you can do the next thing, which is bringing them up with values. You know, you pointed out rightly that you can have very good academic program, you can give them computers, you can have all kinds of software, internet, everything we can do, and have good teachers. That is a formula that is not very complicated, as long as you supervise it well. But the other part, which is bringing them with values, and ultimately, I would argue the moral authority they should develop, that they stand for truth, transparency, integrity, kindness, generosity, all the human elements. You know, normally schools emphasize in education, and parents push them to get 95%, 100%. Then you want them to be leaders, so, you know, debates, this and that. But schools are not very good at bringing them with moral values. When I say moral values, I'm not talking about religious values. I'm talking about being honest, being kind, being generous, being caring. How do you do that? That is possible only if all your staff, not just me alone, all your staff, they believe in it. So the challenge is actually transforming the people who care for the children. I would argue my challenge, my task is much harder. Training and bringing them up, it's not a formal training, it is you're caring for them, and they begin to listen to you, that you have the moral authority, that they are willing to listen to you, and they in turn have the moral authority. So the whole school becomes an institution where it's one family that believes in moral values.
You are so right, because education is one thing, literacy is another.
Right.
You know, reading the book and getting a good job is one matter.
Right.
But you said it very correctly, that unless and until those who are involved in the entire process take care of children.
Right.
Because poverty has no religion.
Right.
Illness has no religion.
Correct.
Ignorance doesn't know religion. So you have to, one has to overcome these challenges as you study through, because after all, as a community, we are one.
Right.
And that's what is very important. We will take a short break, and we will come back soon after these short messages. Welcome back. So listening to Dr. Abraham George, I'm inspired to share my own story. And that is a true story. Because we studied in a school in Bihar, in a place called Netarhat, which incidentally had similar philosophy that you have here. The difference was only one, that it was an open competitive exam to admit in the 6th grade. We were 9 or 10 years of age to get into the school. We had a competitive exam. Out of 3,000-4,000 young boys will write the exam, 60 were selected every year. We had a housemaster and a house mother. We did everything ourselves. You talk about the values. This is an interesting observation. In Netarhat school, I think in Bihar, my home state of Bihar, this is the only good thing that has happened in that state, of establishment of Netarhat school and what it has done to people. The ambition and mission of the school was to create good citizens. And I'm very proud to say that by and large, we have achieved academic success.
Excellent.
And job-wise, a whole lot of people in bureaucracy and private sector have done very well.
Very good.
And we still have the same value systems where the respect for the senior and the respect for the junior was equal. It was what I would call, we lived in a state of enhanced equilibrium. Believe it or not, we studied only 1 hour a day.
Really?
Yes, only 1 hour a day.
Wow.
But rest of the day, we did everything in the house for ourselves. Sweeping the floor, serving food, cleaning the utensils, bathroom, urinals, doing our own bed, sweeping the floor, mopping the floor, and we played games, sports. That was a marvelous way in which the values were put in us. And believe it or not, that's where you understood that no job is inferior.
Right, right.
That in India, we have a challenge that we look down upon somebody who is doing some job which is considered menial. He's a driver. We don't respect a driver by his name, but we call him a driver.
Right.
So in our school, we did everything, including carpentry, masonry, blacksmith work, everything, agriculture work, as a result of which the commonality of purpose that was established generated massive value systems. So in our school, we had all these value systems, and believe it or not,
Yes.
till today, top 20 positions in the school board exam is dominated by our school guys. And it is a remarkable experience because every day we studied an hour or so, that's it. But we were so involved, culturally, emotionally, and you will be surprised to know that my friend from my hometown of Bhagalpur,
Yes.
his mother used to remove the earthen pot of human waste every morning from our house. But he was my colleague in school,
Right.
and there was no discrimination. Nobody was allowed to have money to show off.
Right, right.
Nobody was allowed. And we celebrated every festivity on a human level, not on a gigantic level of show
Right,
off.
right.
Those were the values that brought our school so close. I mean, even today, if I tell my batchmate, alumni of 1999 or 2000, the moment we say we belong to the same school, there's an immediate
big bond,
recollection,
yeah.
a big pot. That's a real melting pot.
Right.
Having said about that, I wanted to also talk to you about a couple of things. Is how does your ambition carry you forward? What challenges you have faced? Because India is not an easy country. Indians create problems for themselves. And it's not a complaint, it's an observation. We don't like to see people succeed. You know, the crab mentality thing is often
Right.
mentioned. So share with us and the audience what challenges you faced and how you overcame that.
Right. There are many challenges that anyone trying to do social work in a rural area would face. First of all, the upper caste don't like you doing this for the lower caste. Bureaucracy and politicians want preference for their recommended children or their own children. People try to extract money and on, and then land grabbers who will come and try to take your land, and that the police is already bought up by somebody, and you know, a whole series of problems. But I don't want to emphasize that, because we have learned how to cope with it and deal with it and adjust to it. What the challenge that we face today is, how do we replicate this? How do we multiply this effect? I honestly feel that if we can have 100 Shanti Bhavans, maybe 2 or 3 in every state, we can transform the face of India. We can break the caste system. We will have great productive citizens. These are not kids doing very low-level jobs. They are managers and entrepreneurs and so on. So they contribute to the society in a much bigger way. I'm not trying to put down people who don't have those jobs, but I'm just trying to say that we are creating very productive citizens who have the power of wealth and income to multiply. So the multiplicative effect is what is exciting about it. I tell the children, listen, in your lifetime, you must embark on transforming 100 other children. If you do that, and every one of our kids do, and we have 100 schools, imagine it'll be in millions, the numbers in a few years. And that's what the challenge is. So what am I looking for? I am looking for people who have probably made money, or they can afford to take off and get involved in it, who have a heart for this. Come and talk to me. I will train what we have done, and You can start your own, and you can adapt the model to whatever you want, as long as you hopefully won't make decisions based on some religion or something like that. But if we can do that, that is one challenge. So we have already started the effort to start the second school. And we had a major gala in New York and raised some money, and we are buying the land, some 25 acres, slightly outside of Bangalore. That is one challenge. Second challenge is you don't live forever. You have to make the transition. And the transition is not a question of just going and hiring somebody who has been a principal of a school somewhere. That's not going to do the job. They have to embrace the same values that you are talking about. Children having values is one thing, but the staff and the leaders having the same values, where they respect the children and love them and bring them up, that's a big challenge. So 10 years ago, I asked my eldest boy, Ajit, to leave his job and join me.
Okay.
And so
and
I don't want to sound...
And he did it voluntarily.
Yes, he did. He did. He was very happy, and he's the happiest man. And he shuttles between Seattle and Bangalore, the school, Shanti Bhavan, twice a year. And he is committed to, for the rest of his life, to this cause. So, well, it's not a family business. We have volunteers from all over the world. Some 50 countries, including mainland China and Pakistan, sent volunteers. I don't know how they got into India, but they volunteered with us. Many countries. So our children get the exposure to other cultures. So that is another ingredient of our success, that they are very comfortable dealing with any nationality. And so the goal is to identify leaders who have a passion for making a difference and who have the moral courage. If I can find them, I can train them. And the only thing is, I don't want to lose out more than another 10, 15 years, and then I'm too old to do this.
I have a suggestion for you here.
Yes.
Allow me the liberty and the daring to make a suggestion.
Yes.
Whenever you go back to India now, please do make a trip to Bihar.
Okay.
And visit the school. I will, with the help of
Please
other colleagues of ours,
yeah.
we will set up a meeting with you, the principal of the school.
Okay.
Because sustainability is key.
Correct.
Because how that our establishment has sustained itself.
Okay.
It would be an interesting venture, because that school, my school, more than 50% students are poor.
Okay.
Their parents can't afford.
Okay.
So how do they do that?
Okay.
Believe it or not, it cuts across. And I don't know whether you have sports as a curriculum in your...
Yes, we do.
Sports was a big thing in our school.
Okay.
So performance mattered.
Okay.
So I'm a Brahmin. I was all into all sports.
Right.
But my best friends were tribals.
Right.
Ramesh Paul Dayal Munjani, Wilson Sunil Lakda,
Yes.
Sudhir Gudia, Vinod Karkata.
Yes.
These people were hockey players, football players, and we were all friends, cutting across all caste barriers, because
Right.
all that mattered was going on the ground and winning.
Right.
That is important for...
Yeah, I
So
would love to.
I would
visit.
definitely
Yeah,
organize that
put
trip,
me,
because
yeah.
from that institution,
Yes.
because we feel what development means, what education can do for you. Because education removes what you call the barriers of ignorance and poverty. It removes that part of it.
Right.
So as a result of which, I will set up that meeting for you to visit.
I am a frequent visitor to Bihar. My wife comes from Bihar.
Are you serious?
She was born and brought up in Jamshedpur.
Jamshedpur, okay.
Yeah, but I think it's Jharkhand now.
Jharkhand now, yeah.
Yeah.
But if she is from Bihar, then she would have heard the name of the place Netarhat.
Okay.
Please
ask
do
her.
check with her.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be wonderful to organize that.
She was born and brought up, but her parents were from Kerala, but for all practical purposes, she's a Bihari. Because she grew up there, from childhood.
Does she speak Hindi or
She
think of
speaks
Bihari
Hindi.
accent?
She
Does
does.
she have
Hindi
that?
she does well. A little bit of Bengali, a little bit of Bihari. Not
That's
much.
fascinating. I would have never guessed that she's from Bihar. Now, tell me one thing more, and that is one thing which is very dear to my heart, is in terms of India, everything that you do has an element of corruption. It eats into the vitals of the country, society, people, everything. What has been your experience? Have you experienced political interference in your work when you are dealing with people who belong to the Dalit group? And I also want you to share with the audience that how the Netflix 4-part series,
Yes.
Daughters of Destiny, was made. And you told me that it has won Emmy Awards. And how did A.R. Rahman come in?
Right.
Tell us something about the Daughters
Okay,
of Destiny, which
okay.
I'm sure if you just Google Daughters of Destiny, you will see it on YouTube. But let's hear
On
from
Netflix. Netflix.
But
yes.
you can tell us more about it.
Okay. Let me answer your first part of the question. Initially, government officials and politicians, even the collector of the district, they were trying to control us. But I was very adamant, having spent many years here and built my own company. I was not willing to. I had even taken the collector to High Court, and they had to plead with me to take them out of the case. He came with a JCB, bulldozer, and tried to break our road, dig our road, so we can't come in. All kinds of things. So. But leave that aside, we managed to get over it. Where you need their help is when you need some permission to do something. An electric line has to be put. Then comes the bureaucracy, and anything you want from the government, it becomes a little difficult. But India is India, and you have to live with it. Let me answer the second part of it, which is what Netflix has done. What happened was some 8 years ago, a volunteer who discovered us told Netflix, and then they appointed the director of the film, who herself was an Oscar winner. And they got very interested, and they spent 7 years literally living with us. And they must have shot miles and miles of reel. And A.R. Rahman, Netflix has the money to pay him and so on, so that was not a problem. And the film came out last year. It became very popular, and Emmy has a special award called Programming that has the potential to change society, programming with a conscience. It was given a special award for that. And so, and I would urge the viewers of this program to take a look. You'll really enjoy it. It has 4 parts, and though it takes nearly 3 hours to get through, it's worth watching.
I'm sure it is. And with this, like every good thing has to come to an end, we have come to the end of our program for this week. It has been a real pleasure to share with you the experience of Dr. Abraham George. And here is a lesson. If you want to do it, there is always a way to do it. Where there is will, there is a way. And I know that many Indians want to do something to give back to the country. I would say, think about it. Why not Shanti Bhavan? Why not Ekal Vidyalaya? Why not many other ventures like that? So join hands, volunteer, do something about it. Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha ends now. See you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you, George, for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate your presence today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.